The bouquet hit the marble floor like something dead. White roses scattered across the aisle, their petals bruised beneath the heels of women who had never once bent down to pick up anything for themselves. Crystal chandeliers glittered above the grand ballroom of the Blackthorn Hotel, throwing light over champagne towers, silk gowns, black tuxedos, and the kind of smiles that always looked expensive but never warm. Emily Carter stood in the center of it all with cold fingers, damp eyes, and a florist's apron hidden beneath a borrowed black dress. The bride laughed, not a quiet laugh, not a nervous one, a beautiful, polished, cruel laugh that carried through the ballroom and made 300 guests turn their heads. "She's too big for a man like him," Vivienne Rousseau said, her diamond veil trembling as she smiled. "Honestly, Emily, you arrange flowers for women who get chosen." Don confused that with being one of them. The room went still. Emily felt the words land before she fully understood them. They seemed to strip the air from her lungs. She had heard whispers all night. Too plain, too soft, too wide, too invisible. She had swallowed all of it because this wedding could save her flower shop for another 6 months. Because rich people were cruelest when they were paying. Because her little sister still needed tuition. Rent was due. And humiliation did not matter as much as survival. At least, that was what she had told herself. Then Vivienne had ripped the bouquet from the gold stand, thrown it at Emily's feet, and turned her shame into entertainment. "Pick it up," the bride said softly. "That's where you belong. Isn't it, on your knees? Fixing pretty things for women like me." Some guests looked away. Others watched with bright, hungry eyes. Emily bent down slowly, her cheeks burning so badly she thought the whole ballroom could see the heat rising from her skin. She reached for the bouquet, fighting the tremble in her hands. The flowers were her work. White roses, gardenias, and dark red calla lilies bound in antique blue silk ribbon from a box her mother had left behind. She had stayed up until 4 in the morning building it by hand, making every stem perfect. Now it lay at her feet like a joke. Emily picked it up. A camera flashed. Then another. Her throat tightened. But she refused to cry. She would not give Vivienne that. She would not give this room the pleasure of watching a lonely florist break beneath their chandeliers. She lifted her chin, and that was when the ballroom doors opened. A silence moved through the room before the man did. Adrian Moretti entered like winter in a black suit. Tall, controlled, terrifyingly calm. The groom. The man whose name had been whispered all week by caterers, guards, hotel managers, and nervous guests. The head of the Moretti family, the kind of man people smiled at only because they were afraid not to. His dark eyes swept over the ballroom. First the bride, then the scattered petals, then Emily. He saw her standing there with the bouquet in her hands, shame tightening her shoulders. Vivienne's laughter still hanging in the air like perfume over poison. No one moved. Vivienne's smile flickered. "Adrian," she said, suddenly softer. "You relate." Adrian did not answer her. He walked toward Emily. Every step echoed over the marble. Men with earpieces shifted near the walls. Vivienne's father stiffened at the front table. Emily stood frozen as Adrian stopped directly in front of her, close enough that she could see the tiny scar cutting through his left eyebrow and the silver cufflink shaped like a raven on his wrist. His gaze dropped to the bouquet, then to her hands. "Did she throw this at you?" he asked. His voice was low, controlled, almost gentle. Somehow that made it more dangerous. Emily swallowed. "It's fine." "No," he said. "It isn't." Vivienne laughed once, sharp and nervous. "Adrian, darling, don't be dramatic. She's staff." Adrian's eyes did not leave Emily's face. "Your name," he said. She stared at him. "Emily Carter." Something unreadable passed through his expression. Recognition. Maybe. Or surprise. It vanished too quickly for her to understand. He reached out, but he did not touch her. Instead, he took the bouquet from her trembling hands. The ballroom seemed to stop breathing. Adrian turned, bouquet in hand, and faced the crowd. "This wedding cannot begin," he said. Vivienne went white beneath her bridal makeup. Adrian looked at her, and his voice became colder than the marble under Emily's feet. "Because I chose the wrong woman." The first scream came from Vivienne's mother. Then came the whispers, the gasps, the phones rising, the stunned faces, the sudden movement of guards at the doors. Emily could barely hear any of it. Her heart was pounding too loudly. Adrian Moretti had not declared love. He had not made a proposal. He had not softened. But he had taken the object of her humiliation and turned it into a weapon in his hand. Vivienne's lips parted. "You don't mean that." Adrian stepped closer to her. "I mean every word I say. You would embarrass me for a florist." "No." Adrian said. "You embarrassed yourself." Vivienne's eyes flashed with hatred before she hid it behind tears. "You are making a mistake. For once," he said. "I am correcting one." Emily took a step back. This was no longer about her. She could feel it. The room was too tense, too dangerous. Men at separate tables were reaching inside their jackets. Vivienne's father was whispering to someone behind him. Adrian's guards were moving into position without being told. The wedding was not just ruined. It was becoming a battlefield. Emily turned to leave. Adrian noticed immediately. "Miss Carter." She stopped despite herself. His gaze locked on hers. "Do not go outside alone." The warning slid down her spine. Vivienne smiled through her humiliation. "Yes." "Emily, stay. I'm sure Mr. Moretti has many uses for women who bend when told." Emily's humiliation burned into anger so fast, it steadied her. She turned back to Vivienne. "I bent for my flowers," Emily said quietly. "Not for you." The ballroom changed again. Adrian's eyes sharpened. Vivienne's smile died. For one impossible second, Emily felt stronger than everyone in the room. Then the first gunshot cracked through the chandelier glass. Screams exploded. A crystal chain snapped overhead. Guests dove beneath tables. Black-suited guards drew weapons. Emily froze as glass rained, like ice around her. Adrian moved before she could even understand the danger. His arm wrapped around her waist. Hard and absolute, pulling her against him as he turned his body between her and the room. Another shot tore through the flower arch behind them. Red roses burst apart in the air. "Down," he ordered. Emily stumbled with him behind the grand piano. His hand pressed firmly between her shoulder blades, shielding her as armed men stormed the exits. Her cheek was against his chest. She could feel his heartbeat. Slow, steady, like violence did not frighten him, like he had been waiting for it. "What is happening?" she whispered. Adrian looked toward the balcony, where one of his men was already dragging a shooter down by the collar. "The wedding has begun," he said, and somehow Emily knew he did not mean Vows. Within minutes, the Blackthorn Hotel became a fortress. Guests were herded into side rooms. Police sirens wailed outside, though none of the officers were allowed past Adrian's men. The chandelier still swung overhead, broken and glittering. Vivienne Rousseau was gone. So was her father. Emily sat in a private service hallway with a blanket around her shoulders and a smear of white rose pollen on her wrist. Her dress was torn at the hem. Her knees ached from hitting the floor. But she was alive. Adrian stood several feet away, speaking in Italian to three men with bloodless faces and loaded guns. Emily watched him because it was impossible not to. He was not handsome in a soft way. Nothing about him invited comfort. He looked carved from grief and command. All sharp angles and controlled silence. People lowered their voices around him. Even his own men seemed careful not to breathe too loudly. Yet when he glanced at Emily, something in him altered. Not softened. Focused. As if the whole violent world had narrowed to one point. Her. She hated that she noticed. One of his men approached. "Boss, the east exit is clear. We can move you." Adrian looked at Emily. "Bring the car around the service entrance." Emily stood. "I'm not going anywhere with you." His gaze settled on her. "Yes. You are." "No. I'm not." Her voice shook. But she held it. "I don't know who shot at who. I don't know why your bride hates me. I don't know why you said what you said in there. But I am not getting into a car with a mafia boss because he ruined his own wedding and decided to use me as part of the performance." One of his men looked stunned that she was still breathing after saying it. Adrian's expression did not change. "I did not use you," he said. Emily laughed once. Bitterly. "You took my bouquet, humiliated your bride, announced you chose the wrong woman, and then bullets started flying. That feels like being used." His jaw tightened. For the first time, she saw something beneath the control. Guilt. Then it was gone. "You are in danger because of what was inside that bouquet," he said. Emily went still. What Adrian turned slightly. One of his men stepped forward holding the bouquet, now crushed and damaged. The antique blue silk ribbon had been cut open. Nestled inside the binding was a tiny silver bracelet. A child's bracelet. Emily stared at it. "I didn't put that there," she whispered. "I believe you," Adrian said. "Then why was it in my bouquet?" His eyes darkened. "Because someone wanted it delivered to me without passing through my security." Emily took a step closer before she could stop herself. The bracelet was delicate, engraved with two letters, S, M. Her stomach dropped. "My mother's ribbon," she said. Adrian's attention snapped back to her. "What did you say, the blue ribbon?" "It came from my mother's old supply box. I used it because Vivian demanded something antique. Something no other bride would have." Emily looked up at him. "My mother owned Carter Blooms before me. She died 3 years ago." Adrian stared at her with a new intensity that made her pulse jump. "What was her name, Margaret Carter?" The hallway seemed to empty of sound. Adrian took the bracelet from his man's hand. For a moment, he looked less like a king of criminals and more like a man standing at the edge of an old wound. "Your mother knew my sister," he said. Emily blinked. "That's impossible. My sister Lucia disappeared 5 years ago. She was pregnant." His voice lowered. 3 months later, she was found dead near the Hudson. The child was never found. Emily's hand rose to her mouth. Adrian looked at the tiny bracelet in his palm. "Sofia Moretti," he said. "My niece." The name sat between them like a match near gasoline. Emily's mind raced through memories of her mother's locked cabinet, old invoices, unusual late-night deliveries. The strange envelope in the safe Emily had never opened because grief had made some doors impossible to touch. "My mother never told me," Emily whispered. "She may have been protecting you." From who? Adrian's eyes lifted. "From the woman who just tried to marry me." The service door opened suddenly at the end of the hall. A hotel worker stepped in, pale and breathless. Then he raised a gun. Emily saw it before anyone else. Adrian. Adrian turned. The shot fired. He caught Emily and shoved her behind him at the same time his men returned fire. The sound slammed through the narrow corridor. Emily fell against the wall, ears ringing, heart tearing itself apart. The fake hotel worker dropped. Adrian looked down at his shoulder, where blood darkened his white shirt. Emily stared. You re-hit. And it's nothing. You re-bleeding. I said it's nothing. She stepped forward, anger cutting through fear. And I said you re-bleeding. His men froze again. Emily grabbed the blanket from her shoulders and pressed it against his wound. Adrian looked at her hand, then at her face. For one suspended second, the world outside them vanished. You should be afraid of me, he said quietly. I am, Emily whispered. But right now you're re-bleeding on hotel carpet. So stand still. Something almost like amusement touched his mouth. Almost. Then his eyes went cold again as he looked at his men. Get her to the car. This time, Emily did not argue. The ride through Manhattan felt like being swallowed by a storm made of black glass. 3 SUVs moved around them. Rain streaked across the windows, though Emily did not remember when it had started. Adrian sat beside her in silence, while one of his men drove. His injured shoulder wrapped beneath his suit jacket as though pain were an inconvenience beneath his dignity. Emily kept her hands folded in her lap because she did not trust them not to shake. On her phone, notifications exploded. Mafia, wedding scandal. Moretti groom leaves bride for plus-size florist. Gunfire at Blackthorn Hotel. Who is Emily Carter? She turned the screen face down. Adrian noticed. Do not read them. Easy for you to say. They're not calling you desperate, delusional, or a homewrecker. His eyes shifted to the window. They've called me worse. That doesn't make it fine. No, he said. It makes it useful. Emily looked at him. Useful. The world believes I humiliated Vivian Russo over you. That makes you the center of the scandal. It also makes anyone who moves against you visible. Her chest tightened. So I was right. You are using me. Adrian's silence was answer enough. Emily turned away, throat burning. He spoke after a long moment. I did not plan for her to humiliate you, but once she did, you turned it into strategy. Yes, the honesty hurt more than a lie would have. Why tell me that, she asked. Because lies are expensive. Truth is cleaner. Emily laughed softly. Without humor, that might be the coldest thing anyone has ever said to me. Adrian looked at her then. I am cold. Miss Carter. No, she said, surprising them both. You want people to think that cold men don't carry a child's bracelet like it's a prayer. His expression changed. The SUV passed beneath the glow of a bridge. And for a moment, light cut across his face, revealing exhaustion he had hidden from everyone else. Then darkness returned. They arrived at a penthouse near the river, high above the city, where the windows reflected storms and wealth in equal measure. Emily was given a room larger than her entire apartment, with cream walls, fresh towels, and a locked balcony door. Adrian stood in the doorway. You'll stay here tonight. I need to go home. Your shop was broken into 20 minutes ago. Emily's breath stopped. Adrian's voice remained calm, but his eyes watched her carefully. No one was inside. My men arrived before they burned it. Her knees weakened. My shop damaged. Not destroyed. She pressed a hand against the dresser. Carter Bloom's was not just a business. It was her mother's handwriting on old order forms. Her father's photograph behind the register. Her little sister Lily doing homework at the counter after school. It was the last place Emily had ever felt she belonged. Vivienne had laughed at her in a ballroom. Now someone had gone after her home. Emily turned on Adrian. This happened because of you. Yes. Again. The honesty. No defense. No excuse. It should have made her hate him more. Instead, it made her cry. Not loudly, not dramatically, just one tear slipping down her cheek before she could stop it. Adrian's gaze followed it. His hand lifted slightly. He almost touched her. Then he stopped himself. The space between his fingers and her face felt more intimate than any touch would have been. "I will replace everything," he said. "You can't replace my mother." His hand lowered. "No," he said quietly. "I can tea." Emily wiped her face, embarrassed by her own grief. Adrian stepped back as if giving her room was the only apology he knew how to offer. "Sleep if you can," he said. "There are guards outside your door." "I don't want guards. You have them anyway." She looked at him with wet, angry eyes. "Do you ever ask?" His gaze held hers. "Not when your life is at stake. Then don't pretend this is protection. It's a cage." "Oh," for a moment. She thought he would leave without answering. Instead, Adrian said, "A cage keeps something from escaping. A fortress keeps something from being taken." Then he closed the door. Emily did not sleep. At 2 in the morning, she opened the door and found Adrian sitting in the hallway. Not a guard. Adrian. His jacket was gone. His shirt was rolled at the sleeves. A fresh bandage covered his shoulder. A gun rested on the floor beside him like an ordinary object. He looked up. Emily stared at him. "Why are you here? Your window faces the neighboring roof. You have 20 men?" "Yes." "And you still sat outside my door." His eyes held hers. "I don't delegate what I cannot afford to lose." Her heart struck once. Hard. She hated the way those words entered her. Hated that they sounded less like seduction and more like a confession he had not meant to make. "You barely know me," she said. "I know you stood in a ballroom full of wolves and did not lower your eyes. That doesn't mean I belong in your world." "No," Adrian said. "It means my world should have been afraid when it looked at you." Emily could not answer. The city glowed behind him through the corridor window. Silver rain sliding down the glass. He looked dangerous there, wounded and watchful, like a man who had forgotten how to sleep because the world had punished him every time he closed his eyes. She stepped into the hallway. "You need that bandage changed." "It's fine. You keep saying that when things are not fine." He gave her a long look. Then, silently, he stood and followed her into the room. Emily found the medical kit in the bathroom because, of course, the penthouse had one behind a mirror. She cleaned his wound with careful hands while he sat on the edge of the bed. Too large. Too still. Too close. His skin was warm beneath her fingers. A tattoo curved over his shoulder. Black ink disappearing beneath his shirt. She tried not to notice. "Failed. You're good at this," he said. "I arrange flowers. I know how to keep delicate things alive. I am not delicate." "No," Emily said, pressing gauze a little too firmly. "You are very dramatic for a man pretending not to be." His mouth almost moved. She wondered what his laugh would sound like. Then his phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and his expression turned lethal. "What is it?" she asked. He stood too quickly. Jaw tightening. "They found your mother's ledger." Emily followed him into a private office where half a dozen men waited around a table. On the screen was security footage from her damaged shop. A man in gloves had smashed the old cabinet behind the counter and taken a red leather book Emily recognized instantly. Her mother's delivery ledger. The one Emily had never opened. Adrian watched the footage without blinking. Who sent him his second in command? Marco answered. Russo, men. But they delivered the ledger to Marcello Vale. The name changed the room. Emily looked around. Who is Marcello Vale? Adrian's voice was flat. The rival who helped murder my sister. Emily gripped the table. And Vivienne was supposed to marry me to end the war between our families. Adrian said, But I suspected the Russo family was feeding information to Vale. Tonight confirms it. Emily stared at him as pieces began arranging themselves into a terrifying picture. The wedding was a trap. Yes, you were never going to marry her. I was going to let her get close enough to expose herself. And I walked into the middle of it with flowers. Adrian looked at her. And this time the guilt did not disappear. Yes. Emily stepped back. I want to see my sister. She's already under protection. The room went quiet. Emily's blood chilled. What did you do? I sent men to bring Lily to a safe location. Emily slapped him. The sound cracked through the office like a second gunshot. Every man in the room froze. Adrian's face turned slightly with the force of it. Slowly. He looked back at her. His men reached for their weapons. Adrian lifted one finger. They stopped. Emily's hand stung. Her whole body shook. You do not take my sister without asking me, she said. You do not move pieces around my life like I am one of your chessboards. I don't care how powerful you are. I don't care how many people fear you. I have spent my whole life being told to be grateful for scraps, to stay quiet, to stand behind prettier women and arrange flowers for their happy endings. I will not be managed by you. Adrian stared at her, not angry, not insulted, fascinated. Then he said, You rewrite. Emily blinked. I should have asked. Marco looked like the floor had shifted beneath him. Adrian took out his phone and placed it on the table, sliding it toward her. Call Lily. Emily did. Her sister answered on the second ring. Breathless, but safe. Surrounded by Moretti guards in a luxury apartment across town. She was angry, scared, and very much alive. Emily nearly collapsed from relief. When she ended the call, Adrian was still watching her. I will not apologize for protecting her, he said, but I will apologize for taking the choice from you. Emily hated that the apology felt real. She hated that it mattered. 3 days later, the city believed Emily Carter had seduced the most dangerous man in New York. Vivian made sure of it. Her face appeared on gossip pages beside old photos of Emily at the flower shop. Captions mocked her body, her clothes, her ordinary life. Commentators called her ambitious. Brides canceled orders. Anonymous strangers left cruel reviews. Someone spray-painted gold letters across the plywood over her broken shop window. Homewrecker. Emily stood across the street in the cold morning light, staring at the word. Adrian stood beside her in a black overcoat, surrounded by men who were trying very hard not to look furious on her behalf. I can have it removed in 10 minutes, he said. Emily shook her head. No. His gaze moved to her. She crossed the street, took a bucket of white paint from one of the workers, and covered the word herself. Stroke by stroke, cars slowed. People watched. Someone filmed. Emily did not hide. When she finished, she turned and saw Adrian looking at her with an expression she could not name. What she asked. You don't wait to be rescued. I've waited before, she said. No one came. His eyes darkened. That afternoon, Adrian brought her to a private meeting beneath an old supper club in Little Italy. She refused 3 different dresses his stylist offered and wore her own dark green one instead. The neckline, modest. The waist soft. The hem brushing her knees. When she entered the underground room beside him, the conversation stopped. Men from 3 families sat around a long table. They looked at Adrian first, then at Emily. Vivian was there too. She wore white again, as if refusing to surrender the role of bride. Her gaze slid over Emily and sharpened. How sweet. You brought your florist to council. Adrian pulled out the chair beside him. Not behind him. Beside him. Emily sat. Vivian's mouth tightened. Adrian addressed the table. The Russo family broke the wedding contract. Vivian laughed delicately. Because you had a public breakdown over a woman who trims stems for a living? Emily looked at her. I own my business. How inspiring. And you tried to burn it down. Emily said. The room went quiet. Vivian's eyes flashed. Adrian placed a folder on the table. Security footage. Financial transfers. The shooter's confession. Vivian's father leaned forward. Careful. Mority. I've been careful for 5 years. Adrian said. That ended when your daughter threw a bouquet at an innocent woman and exposed more than her character. Marcello Vale stepped from the shadows near the bar. Smiling. Emily recognized him from photographs Adrian had shown her. Smooth. Silver-haired. Elegant in the way knives were elegant. The innocent woman seems to be enjoying her promotion. Marcello said. Adrian did not move. But the air around him changed. Speak to her again, he said softly. And this meeting becomes your funeral. A shiver moved through the room. Emily should have been terrified. She was. But there was something else too. Something dangerous and unwanted. The knowledge that Adrian's violence did not scatter randomly. It gathered around her like a storm waiting for permission. Marcello smiled wider. You always were emotional about women who don't belong in our world. Adrian's hand curled around the arm of his chair. Emily touched his wrist under the table. Barely. Just enough. He looked at her. She shook her head once. Do not. For a moment. Nothing existed but the pressure of her fingers and the fury in his eyes. Then Adrian leaned back. Marcello noticed. So did Vivienne. Jealousy twisted Vivienne's beautiful face into something ugly. You think he cares about you? She asked Emily. He needs you because your dead mother hid something. Once he finds it, you'll go back to flowers and loneliness. The words struck with brutal precision. Emily's hand withdrew from Adrian's wrist. Adrian's voice dropped. Vivienne. No. Let her hear it. Vivienne stood. He chose you because you were useful. Because the whole city laughed at you, and he knew the scandal would pull his enemies into the open. That's what Adrian does. He turns people into weapons. Emily looked at Adrian. He did not deny it. Pain opened inside her. Tell me she's lying. Emily said. Adrian's silence felt like betrayal. Vivienne smiled. Emily stood. Adrian rose immediately. Emily. No. Her voice was quiet. Don't follow me. You're not safe alone. I wasn't safe with you either. I was just more valuable. His face changed. She turned and walked out before he could see her tears. Outside. Rain softened the alley into silver and black. Emily moved fast. Breath-breaking. Hands shaking. She heard footsteps behind her and turned. Expecting Adrian. It was Marcello Vale. He smiled beneath an umbrella. Miss Carter, he said, you and I should talk about your mother. Emily backed away. A black van door slid open behind her. She screamed once before a hand covered her mouth. Adrian found her earring in the alley 15 minutes later. A small pearl stud lying in a puddle beside a crushed white petal. For the first time in years, he felt fear so violently it almost brought him to his knees. Marco stood beside him in the rain. Boss Adrian closed his fist around the earring. Every part of him went silent. Not calm. Silent. The kind of silence that came before men disappeared from the earth. Find here, he said. They searched through traffic cameras, burner phones, old Rousseau properties, Vale warehouses. Adrian did not sit. He did not eat. He did not blink unless someone made the mistake of speaking Vivienne's name. By midnight, they found the video. Emily was tied to a chair in the nave of an abandoned church near the river, still in her green dress, hair loose, face pale but unbroken. Vivienne stood beside her, holding Emily's mother's red ledger. You should have stayed behind the flowers, Vivian said on the video. Now Adrian gets to choose. The ledger and the girl. Or his precious little secret dies with both. The camera shifted. For 1 second. Emily looked straight into the lens. She was afraid, but she was not begging. She said one thing before the video cut out. Don't trade Sophia for me. Adrian stared at the black screen. The room around him seemed to vanish. Marco whispered. She knows. Adrian turned. What Marco held up a scanned page from the recovered half of the ledger. Her mother left coordinates. And a note. Sophia was placed with a family under another name. Emily must have figured it out when they took her. Adrian closed his eyes once. Emily Carter. Humiliated in a ballroom. Dragged into a war she never asked for. Still protected a child she had never met. Something inside him broke. Or maybe it finally became whole. For 5 years, Adrian had lived for revenge. He had built his empire around absence. His sister's laugh. Her unborn child. The family he failed to save. He had thought obsession was a kind of control. Then Emily had entered his life with bruised flowers in her hands and courage she did not know how to hide. Now fear had a name. Not losing power, not losing the war. Losing her. Adrian opened his eyes. Prepare the cars. Marco hesitated. It's a trap. Thrr. Yes. Adrian said. That's why I'm going. The abandoned church stood at the edge of the river. Its windows boarded. Its steeple broken. Its doors chained open like a mouth. Inside, candles burned along the aisle. Emily sat near the altar. Wrists tied. Heart thudding so hard she could feel it in her throat. Vivienne paced before her in a torn wedding gown. Still beautiful. Still cruel. But no longer polished. Rage had stripped the shine from her. You ruined everything, Vivienne said. Emily's wrists burned against the rope. You did that yourself. Vivienne struck her. Pain burst across Emily's cheek. She inhaled sharply but did not lower her head. Vivienne leaned close. Do you know what men like Adrian do to women like you? They admire your courage until it becomes inconvenient. Then they bury you with the rest of their mistakes. Emily tasted blood at the corner of her mouth. You don't know him as well as you think. Vivienne laughed. And you do, Emily looked toward the ruined doors. I know he came back for a bouquet nobody else thought mattered. Something flickered in Vivienne's face. Hatred. Jealousy. Fear. You read nothing, she whispered. Emily's voice shook, but she held it. Then why are you so afraid of me? Vivienne raised her hand again. The church doors exploded inward. Black SUVs flooded the entrance with headlights. Armed men poured into the nave. Wind and rain rushed through the church, killing half the candles. Adrian Moretti walked through the storm. No shouting. No panic. Just Adrian in a black coat. Blood from an earlier fight marking one side of his face. His eyes fixed on Emily like the rest of the world had ceased to exist. Vivienne grabbed Emily by the hair and pressed a gun to her temple. Adrian stopped. The whole church froze. Emily's breath caught. Vivienne smiled. Wild now. There he is. The groom who chose wrong. Adrian's voice was deathly calm. Let her go. Give me the location of the child. No. Vivienne pressed the gun harder. Emily closed her eyes. Adrian took one step forward. Vivienne screamed. I'll kill her. Adrian stopped again. The sight of him obeying because of her broke something in Emily's chest. Vivienne saw it and laughed. Oh, Adrian, you do love her. How embarrassing. Adrian's gaze did not leave Emily. Yes, he said. The word landed softly. Terribly. Emily opened her eyes. Adrian looked at her with the truth stripped bare from his face. I tried not to, he said. I tried to make you strategy. then necessity, then responsibility. But you became the only person in my life I could not reduce to war. Emily's tears slipped free. Viviennes and trembled. You don't get to have this, she hissed. Emily moved before fear could stop her. She slammed her head backward into Vivian's face and threw herself sideways. The gun fired into the ceiling. Adrian lunged. His men surged forward. The church erupted into chaos. Emily hit the floor hard. Adrian reached her in seconds, cutting the rope from her wrists with a knife pulled from his sleeve. Behind him, gunfire cracked through pews and stone columns. But he did not look away from her. Are you hurt? He demanded. I'm okay. His hands framed her face. Careful, despite the violence around them. His thumb hovered near the mark on her cheek. He did not touch it until she leaned into him. Then he broke, only for a second. His forehead lowered to hers. You were not supposed to matter this much, he whispered. Emily's laugh came out broken. That's not as romantic as you think. His mouth twitched. Pain and relief tangled together. Then a shot rang out from the balcony. Adrian's body jerked. Emily screamed as he fell against her. Marco's men returned fire. Vivian shrieked somewhere near the altar. Marcello Vale tried to run through the side door and was caught by Adrian's guards before he reached the rain. But Emily saw none of it. She saw Adrian on the church floor, blood spreading beneath his ribs. His hand still gripping hers, as if even unconsciousness could not make him let go. No, she whispered. No, no, no. His eyes opened slightly. Emily, I'm here. His breathing was rough. Sophia, she's safe, Emily said, crying now. Your niece is safe. I swear. His gaze searched hers. And you, she pressed his hand to her chest. I'm right here. The ambulance never came. Adrian's men did not trust hospitals. They carried him into the rain and drove him to a private clinic hidden beneath a luxury medical building on Park Avenue. Emily rode beside him the entire way. One hand pressed over his wound, the other in his hair, whispering things she did not remember saying. Stay. Breathe. Don't you dare leave me after ruining my life. Don't you dare make me love you and then disappear. At dawn, a surgeon came out with blood on his scrubs and exhaustion in his eyes. He'll live. Emily sat down on the floor of the hallway and sobbed into her hands. Marco stood nearby, silent and respectful. After a while, he said, he gave an order before we reached the church. Emily looked up. If anything happened to him, we were to take you and your sister out of the country. New identities. Full protection. He signed everything. Emily wiped her face. He planned for his own death. He plans for every outcome. She looked through the glass wall into the recovery room, where Adrian lay pale and still beneath white sheets. Monitors blinking around him. No, she whispered. Not every outcome, because he had not planned to be loved back. Adrian woke 2 days later to Emily asleep in the chair beside his bed. Her hair was undone. She wore one of his black sweaters, too long at the sleeves. A bruise shadowed her cheek. Her hand rested near his, not touching, as if even in sleep she was still deciding whether to trust him. He watched her for a long time. The first thing he felt was pain. The second was gratitude so violent it frightened him. Emily stirred and opened her eyes. For a moment, she only stared. Then she stood and slapped his arm lightly. He winced. She froze. Did that hurt? Yes. Good. His mouth curved faintly. She started crying. The smile vanished. Emily, you got shot, she said. I've been shot before. Don't say that like it helps. He reached for her hand. This time, she let him take it. I used you. He said. Yes, I told myself it was necessary. I know I was wrong. She looked at him through tears. Yes. His thumb moved slowly over her knuckles. I have been many things in my life, he said. Cruel, patient, violent, strategic. Oh, but with you, I want to learn how to be honest before I am protective. I want to ask before I decide. I want to stand beside you without turning your life into a battlefield. Emily swallowed. That's a lot of wanting from a man who gives orders for a living. I'll do badly at first. A laugh broke through her tears. He held her gaze. But I will learn. Emily looked at their joined hands. I'm not becoming your redemption story. Adrian. No, he said. You are not here to save me. Good. You are here because I am selfish enough to want a life with you and terrified enough to know I must deserve it. The room went very still. Emily's heart ached. Outside the window, morning light touched the city in pale gold. She leaned closer. Adrian's gaze dropped to her mouth. But he did not move. Even wounded. Even powerful. Even desperate. He waited. The choice was hers. Emily kissed him. It was not gentle at first. It was relief and fear and anger, and every word they had not said in the church. Adrian's hand rose carefully to the back of her neck, holding her like she was something sacred and dangerous. When she pulled back, his eyes were darker than she had ever seen them. I need time, she whispered. You'll have it. I need my shop rebuilt my way. It's already yours. I need Lily safe, but not trapped. I'll arrange options. You choose. She smiled faintly. Look at you, almost civilized. His expression softened just enough to be devastating. Only for you. 2 weeks later, Vivian Rousseau's name was no longer spoken with admiration. The scandal became a trial, not in a courtroom at first, but in the hidden chambers where Mafia families measured evidence and consequences. The recovered ledger proved that Emily's mother had helped Lucia Moretti escape. The bracelet proved Sophia existed. Financial records tied Vivienne and her father to Marcello Vale. Security footage from the Bouquet's hidden ribbon showed Vivienne ordering the attack at the wedding. Vivienne had wanted a crown. Instead, she became a warning. Sophia was found living under another name with a retired nurse in Vermont, 7 years old. Serious eyes. Dark hair. A child who liked drawing flowers without knowing why. Adrian met her in the garden of the safe house. Emily stood several feet away, watching as the most feared man in New York knelt slowly on the grass in front of a little girl who held a purple crayon in one hand. He did not touch her. He did not overwhelm her. He simply said, "My name is Adrian. I knew your mother." Sophia studied him. Did she like flowers? Adrian's throat moved. Yes, he said, very much. Sophia looked past him at Emily. Are you the flower lady? Emily smiled through tears. I am. The child held out her drawing. It was a messy bouquet. White roses, dark red lilies, and blue ribbon. Emily felt Adrian look at her. Some things, she thought, were not coincidence. Some things were love letters written by the dead, waiting for the living to be brave enough to open them. Spring arrived slowly. Carter Blooms reopened on a bright Saturday morning with new windows, old photographs, fresh paint, and a gold sign Emily had chosen herself. Not Adrian's designer, not his staff. Hers. People lined up outside. Some came because of the scandal. Some came because they were curious. Some came because they had watched Emily cover the word homewrecker with white paint and wanted to buy flowers from a woman who refused to disappear. Adrian arrived late. Of course. Not because he was careless, because he wanted her to have the first hour without him overshadowing it. Emily knew that, without being told, when the black SUV stopped across the street, every customer inside the shop went silent. Adrian stepped out in a dark suit, no tie, carrying a bouquet. Emily laughed before she could stop herself. He entered the shop, and the bell over the door rang like a small, ordinary miracle. The bouquet in his hand was not extravagant. No diamonds. No impossible imported flowers. Just white garden roses, blue ribbon, and one dark red calla lily in the center. Emily crossed her arms. "Did you bring flowers to a florist?" "Yes." "That's bold. I've been accused of worse." She took the bouquet, touching the ribbon. Their fingers brushed. Even now, after everything, the smallest contact could silence the room around her. Adrian looked at her like he had the first night in the ballroom. Focused. Consumed. Careful. "I have a question," he said. Emily's pulse jumped. "Adrian, it is not that question." She relaxed. A little, his mouth curved. "Not yet." Heat rose in her cheeks. He stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "There's a charity gala tonight at the Blackthorn." Emily's smile faded. The hotel had repaired the ballroom. The bullet holes were gone. The chandelier had been replaced. But Emily could still see the bouquet hitting the floor. Still hear the laughter. Still feel hundreds of eyes waiting for her to break. Adrian saw the memory cross her face. "We don't have to go," he said. She studied him. A year ago, no one had asked what she wanted. Now the most dangerous man she knew stood in her flower shop, waiting for her choice. Emily looked around at the shelves. The sunlight. Lily laughing near the counter with Sophia. Customers pretending not to watch. And the life she had fought to keep. Then she looked back at Adrian. "Yes," she said. "We do." That night, Emily Carter returned to the Blackthorn Hotel in a deep blue gown that fit her body like it had been made for her. Because it had, her hair fell in soft waves over one shoulder. Around her wrist, she wore no diamonds, only the antique blue ribbon from her mother's box, tied carefully beneath a silver bracelet engraved with two initials, S. M. The ballroom went silent when she entered. Adrian stood at the foot of the stairs, waiting for her. He did not offer his arm immediately. He held out his hand. A choice. Emily took it. Together. They walked across the same marble floor where she had once bent down in shame. Guests stared. Cameras turned. Whispers rose and died beneath Adrian's cold glance. At the center of the ballroom, beneath the chandelier, he stopped. The orchestra paused. Emily looked up at him. "What are you doing?" Correcting. "One more thing." He took a bouquet from a nearby table. White roses, dark lilies, blue ribbon. Then Adrian Moretti, feared by men who ruled cities from shadows, lowered himself to one knee in front of the woman they had once laughed at. The room gasped. Emily's eyes filled. "Adrian," she whispered. He looked up at her, not caring who watched, not caring what the world thought it understood. "I will not ask you to belong to my world," he said. "I will build a better one beside yours if you let me. I will fail. I will overstep. I will be difficult, dangerous, and impossible. But I will never again make you feel chosen only when someone else is watching." Emily pressed her hand to her mouth. Adrian held up the bouquet. "No ring tonight," he said quietly. "No pressure. No performance. Just this." She laughed through tears. "You got down on one knee with flowers and claimed there's no pressure." His eyes warmed. "For me, this is restraint." The room held its breath. Emily took the bouquet. Then she took his face in both hands and kissed him in front of everyone. Not because she was proving something to Vivian, not because she needed the world to see, but because the girl who once arranged flowers for other women's love stories had finally stopped standing behind the scenes of her own. Adrian rose and wrapped one arm around her waist, careful but possessive. As applause broke across the ballroom, like rain turning into thunder. Later, when the gala lights dimmed and the city glittered beyond the windows, Emily stood on the balcony with Adrian's coat around her shoulders. Below, black SUVs lined the street. Above, stars struggled through the Manhattan haze. Adrian came to stand behind her, not touching until she leaned back against him. "You quiet," he said. "I'm thinking." "Dangerous." She smiled. "I learned from you." His hands settled at her waist. For a while, they watched the city in silence. Then Emily said, "The night we met, I thought the worst thing that happened to me was being laughed at." Adrian's voice lowered, and now she looked back at him. "Now I think the worst thing would have been believing them." His expression changed. That rare softness, breaking through the darkness. "No one who saw you that night believed them." "You did. I saw a woman pick up what was thrown at her and turn it into the beginning of a war." Emily laughed softly. "That sounds exhausting." It was. And worth it. Adrian turned her gently in his arms. Behind him, the ballroom glowed gold. In his eyes, there was still danger, still shadow, still the man who could command fear with a glance. But there was something else now, too. Devotion. Not soft. Not simple. Earned. "Emily Carter," he said, brushing his thumb along the ribbon at her wrist. "I would walk through that war again for the chance to hand you back your bouquet." Her heart opened quietly. No chandelier shattered. No gunshot split the night. No bride laughed from across the room. There was only the city, the flowers, and the dangerous man who had once chosen wrong in front of everyone and had spent every day since learning how to choose right. Emily rose on her toes and kissed him under the balcony lights. And inside the ballroom, a little girl named Sophia placed a white rose into a vase beside Lily, not knowing that one day, people would tell this story like a legend. The night a bride threw a bouquet at a florist's feet, the night a mafia boss picked it up, and the night Emily Carter stopped waiting to be chosen because she finally chose herself and made the most dangerous man in New York worthy of standing beside her.